The only reason we call the others, is because of Danielle Rousseau. In reality, the others are really Richard Alpert's group, some of whom are chosen by Jacob and some of whom are selected personally by Alpert himself. Richard Alpert was the very first other to be recruited by Jacob in 1867. It was his idea for Jacob to get more involved. So, Richard forms the original group of others with a mission to help Jacob protect the island from both internal and external enemies. Jacob goes into hiding and begins weaving a thread towards the future, and destroying the smoke monster he created. Over the years, Richard's group receive instructions from Jacob on certain tasks that need to be fulfilled or people that need to be recruited. The others develop their own code of ethics that include, among other things, conflict resolution. In other words, not killing one another. Stranger in a Strange Land first explores this notion when Juliet is punished for killing Danny, who was one of their own. Further rules appear to include not leaving the island without permission, or unless absolutely essential. No unauthorized contact with the outside world to protect the location of the island. Learning Latin, the ancient language, for internal communications, particularly when under duress. A willingness to self-sacrifice if under threat of capture or interrogation by perceived enemies of the island. Protecting the temple and sacred places from outsiders. Following the direct instructions of Jacob to the letter, as handed down by Richard Alpert. And taking in all lost children who come to the island. All of these rules can be stretched or even broken, as we see on various occasions. They are human rules. Unlike the rules of a protector, which are unbreakable laws that are enforced by the power of the source. As more conflict comes to the island and with Jacob in hiding from further attempts on his life, it becomes clear that the others need to have a more proactive leader to make day-to-day decisions. The selection process is overseen by Richard. Both he and Jacob know that whoever leads the others is always predestined to do so.
Now, tell me, John, which of these things belong to you?
To keep?
No, John. Which of these things belong to you already?
This is why selection starts from an early age and why Richard tests the young John Locke to see if he has an awareness of this predestination. The island always knows who will respectively take up the position, while Jacob used the recruitment of the others and their leaders as a vetting process for the candidacy of island protector. The earliest leaders that we know of are Eloise Hawking and Charles Widmore. Eloise might have taken on the role in the 1960s, with Widmore taking over in the late 1970s. He was usurped and replaced by Ben Linus in the late 1980s. Then John Locke took over briefly in 2004, before being substituted by the Man in Black in 2007. Ben claims that someone who joins the others must demonstrate a symbol of commitment to the island. For him it was killing his own father, of which he gets Locke to fail in replicating in an attempt to prove Locke is not as committed to the cause as Ben was. But Richard already knew that Locke was predestined to be the leader, so he helps Locke out. This show of commitment to the island could manifest in many different ways for general recruits. For Juliet, it was leaving behind her loved ones and never having contact with them again. Dogen tells Saeed a similar story of giving up his life and family to come to the island. For all intents and purposes, the leader of the others is the second most powerful individual within the hierarchy on the island after Jacob. There can only be one leader at any given time. Their duties include ensuring the safety and security of their people, protecting the island against threats from the outside world, recruiting new members who meet a certain moral or spiritual standard, those that are likely to become true believers who would be willing to fight and die for the island. Most importantly, a leader must carry out the orders of Jacob without question. However, this process is corrupted over time by human weakness. The well of leadership is poisoned under Charles Widmore's tyrannical reign, then soured further under Ben Linus, who uses the island to push his own agenda. And, finally, the leadership chain is broken entirely by the Man in Black himself. We can assume that the Man in Black did everything he could to upset the balance of the others over the years since they were Jacob's acolytes. His interference, manipulations and attacks no doubt played a heavy hand in the slow corruption of the others' ultimate purpose. When Charles Widmore's reign over the others resulted in nothing short of an island genocide, Jacob began to form a group within a group. Let's try not to call them other others. Instead, let's refer to them as the Temple Group. Jacob could most likely see that Richard's group was sliding into darkness, so he personally selected and recruited people like Dogen, Lennon, Alana and Bram to form a splinter faction. He told these people about the man in black, how to fight him, and the importance of candidates. He installed many of them at the temple, where they were instructed to remain over the years until the time came for them to play their part, as we see in season 6. Like Richard, Dogen worked directly for Jacob and fell outside of the normal leadership hierarchy. Those in the know about the man in black are most likely to be the most trusted, longest-serving members of the inner circle. Former leaders like Ben Linus and Charles Widmore were never told about the man in black beyond the ghost stories and legends because Jacob did not allow them to know. They were both deeply corrupt men. The scales within them were most certainly tilting towards the darkness, so therefore they were not privy to many details of Jacob's past or his future plans because they could not be trusted. Which is also why Jacob never met with them. He did not approve of their respective leaderships or actions, but he had already vowed not to interfere, understanding that the island chooses who it chooses for a reason. When Ben takes over as leader, he decides to move the others out from the jungle and into the Dharma barracks. He channels their energies into curing the pregnancy issues on the island, which is something that has great personal resonance to him since his mother died giving birth to him. Meanwhile, Jacob's splinter faction remains outside of Ben's sphere of influence, answering directly to Jacob and, by extension, Richard. So this clear split between the others begins. One group embraces the science and comfort of the modern age while the other group retains the mysticism and mythology of the island's past. We do see that Ben has a cursory knowledge of the smoke monster, of which he most likely discovered for himself. We never see it in his flashbacks but, at some point, once Ben joined the ranks of the others after the Dharma purge, he would have been allowed inside the temple grounds. It is there he would have explored the history and mythology of the island. And it is within the Dharma barracks where he would have discovered the ruin of the old summoning chamber. If he took the time to translate the hieroglyphic markings on the door and walls, they might just have told a story about how this smoke monster could be called upon like an attack dog from beneath the temple. This instilled a sense of power in Ben, and a misguided belief that he had control over the smoke monster. All of which were important stepping stones towards the future and the time loop. A key outpost for the others in the real world includes a front company called Mythology Bioscience. This company was most likely established by Richard Alpert in the 1960s as a way for recruiting people from the outside world, such as we see with Juliet Burke. This company is where the large wealth of the others most likely comes from and allows them to fund various projects both on and off island. Ben has people placed in strategic industries around the world to provide research, support, and intelligence. Especially counterintelligence against Widmore, who had become dead set of finding the island again. This also explains how the others learned so much about the Oceanic 815 survivors. External agents gathered the data and reported it back to Mikhail in the flame station to disseminate. Ben also begins recruiting people who are less than suitable for island residence, such as those with military and mercenary backgrounds. Many of whom make up the clandestine teams that move around the island abducting any desirable new arrivals, and carrying out tactical operations. In order to muddy the waters and retain more influence and control, Ben begins making lists and writing instructions of his own. Many of the others never quite know where a list might be coming from. Could be Ben, could be Jacob, only Richard and a few key personnel will ever know. Meanwhile, when encountering any new island arrivals, Ben makes sure that all they ever might see of the others are Robinson Crusoe-like savages living wild. Almost like an ironic critique of his temple-based counterparts, whom he has very little power over. This rift within the others' hierarchy rears its head on more than one occasion, whether it is Juliet trying to stage a coup by asking Jack to kill Ben during surgery, or Ben appealing to Mikhail's loyalist sensibilities to stay on his side. But Ben's influence only reaches so far. Some of the traditions of the others clearly come from Jacob's instruction. Their ritual of burning the dead and sending the remains out to sea is clearly a result of Jacob not wanting his people to leave behind bodies on the island. He knows that the man in black could infiltrate his group if this were to happen and cause untold chaos. The test we see Dogen put Saeed through in Season 6 is the only method of detecting a smoke monster apparition that is available to those in the know. Many of the others don't realize that their traditions and practices stem from places like this. The others are always a reflection of whoever holds the reins on their leadership. If the leader is violent and vengeful, then the others will be violent and vengeful too. If the leader is compassionate and forgiving, then the others will be compassionate and forgiving too. Under Charles Widmore they went to war with Dharma and slaughtered them all. Under Ben Linus, they were deceptive and manipulative. The others will no doubt undergo another change under the leadership of Hugo Reyes, who will be both an island protector and a leader of its people. Finally bringing the two roles together and bringing a balance to the island after centuries of turmoil. He is the leader that the others have been waiting for. The storm has passed. The others can now finally join with Hurley. From being one of them to being one of us. Thank you for watching. More videos will be available in future. Until then, stay lost.